back to Let's Talk. Let's Talk episode 29. Let's talk about conservative versus trans women, men, part two. And today I am with one of the panel members of this video, which I'm so excited about because you were genuinely, and I mean it, not just because you're here, I genuinely mean it, my favorite person on the panel because I just felt like you handled yourself so well. You didn't, compromise on what you were saying and what your beliefs were, but you were very polite, very well spoken. So, welcome to the Let's Talk podcast. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, first off, thank you so much for those kind words. It definitely was the Lord doing that because when you go on things like this, I feel your automatic instinct is to go on the attack. But before I get into that, hi, I'm Angelina. How do I describe myself? Well, I'm going into my senior year of college, and over the past year, I've got more involved in politics to the point where I felt the need to go on podcasts and debate people on these ideologies. Transgenderism is something that I think is really invading society in a negative way, and it's really affecting children in an extremely negative way, and I've seen that in my own family, and so I just want to take whatever platform I have and use it to glorify God and also combat these harmful beliefs. So
That's awesome. Can I ask first, if you don't mind, what you mean by that when you say you've seen it in your own family?
yeah, without obstructing anyone's privacy too much, I've
Yeah,
seen
of
it
course.
with my own family members who've struggled with these things.
Okay.
And it's sad to see children um, struggle with these things. And I think that's where it really led me to say, no, I'm not going to be quiet about this anymore. I want to speak up about these kinds of things and prevent other young adults, maybe not even, um, maybe not people who are already adults, but young adults like myself who are concerned about how they're going to raise their children in the future. I want to make sure that we all are helping each other out and putting our best foot forward in terms of our future kids.
Well, that's awesome. No, I think that's awesome. I think that we have a major lack of people our age talking about issues like this
Mm-hmm.
boldly. I feel like
Yeah.
we have a lot of people who talk like in their friend groups when like they know everybody agrees with them, but going on a platform like this where you know that the men on the other side, because I just refuse to say trans whatever. I'm gonna just have to do men the whole time. The men on
Yeah.
the other side are just like they're gonna have viewers watching this who are gonna see you and hate you and not even know you. And so I want to applaud before we even begin just your boldness and stepping up and stepping out because it's one thing to do that, with your faith and from a spiritual standpoint, but also just like societal because I've even gone through it with posting things on my private Facebook page and losing close personal friends. And so
Yeah.
I can't even imagine. I'm sure that you have gone through the same thing and just losing people in your life. So I just wanted to applaud you before we get started. And I feel like I have to go right into it because I'm just dying to know about the whole thing. So like how did you hear about this? Did you have to sign up for this? Did they ask you like how did this all go down?
Okay. So, um, this happened because I got a DM on Instagram from the Dr. Daff show asking me to be on their podcast. I'm assuming they saw me on the Jubilee Surrounded episode I did, where it was, I believe, called 25 Conservatives versus one LGBTQ activist. And so they put our social media in the description. So I'm assuming they found me through there. Um, they asked me if I wanted to be on an episode called Conservative Christian Women versus Trans Women. And after thinking about it, I was like, you know what? Yeah, I want to represent conservative Christians well. And so decided to go on the show. Um, when I arrived at the filming location, I had no idea who else might be on there. Um, so I walk in and I'm like, oh my gosh, am I going to even be able to tell who's trans and who's a biological woman? Like, this is going to
Mm-hmm.
be awkward. Is everyone going to hate me? As I walked in there, I immediately was greeted by one of the trans women. Oh my gosh, and it's going to kill me. I forgot their name, but it was the person sitting all the way to the right with a black hoodie and black boots on.
Okay,
Um,
yes.
I forgot.
He was actually, and I say this in the other video, I can tell, I think, off of the other three that he like genuinely feels like there might actually not be a way out for him from this. And that's the vibe I got because some of the things he's saying, he was making sense. Some of the things, like he had an all right opinion on the sports thing, and some of these opinions I was like, all right. And he even says at one point in the video, like something about just like being stuck where he's at. And it actually kind of made me sad because I was like, he truly doesn't believe that he has a way out of this. But anyways, sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, no, you're all good. And yeah, they were such a nice person. He was such a nice person, honestly, and he held a lot of very conservative beliefs in every other area. He was the first person to introduce himself, smile at me, talk to me in a very kind manner. Whereas the other three contestants who were there at that time, other three trans women, Stassi, Blossom, and the other one, were all
Yes.
off in a dressing room, not talking to the rest of us, not conversating. And so that's fine. Then Kristen arrived. Kristen, I actually didn't know that I knew her. Long story short, okay, so Kristen arrived, which is the nice lady in the blue dress, and then
Yes.
Emily arrived. And as soon as Emily arrived, I was very surprised, but because obviously she has a large social media following, I follow her on social media, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the Emily Saves America chick.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? She was chill. I will say she said a few things right off the bat that I thought were a little harsh. But she was very nice to all the trans women there um, before shooting started. I will say like everyone was really really nice to each other before filming started. Nobody was being mean or
Nobody had said anything
nasty.
yet. Yeah.
Yeah, nobody had
Yeah.
said anything yet, so everything was really chill. I will say once we started filming, things kind of took a turn. Um, but overall, it wasn't as aggressive as I would say Jubilee might be.
Yeah, and it was interesting because something in the intro, like they were like, "This isn't an argument. This is just a conversation." And
Yeah.
I just kind of feel like in some aspects that's impossible to
Mm-hmm.
just have a conversation, especially with people who like clearly were not gonna go back and forth in a super civil manner because like nothing's gonna change. And it's like, how do you, I don't even know how you navigate having these conversations without them turning into arguments. And something I noticed right off the bat was the guy at the far left sitting next to Blossom, because I've seen him in other things.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, you need to leave the Bible out of it. You need to, leave your beliefs out of this. And I equated to that to showing up to a gunfight and asking the other guy, hey, like, leave your gun at home, but you still show up with your gun because that's like your most powerful tool. So obviously you want the person, your opponent, to leave their most powerful tool behind. And then they go on to say, oh, and we don't want to talk about biology, like just leave that out of it. I mean, like, so let me rewind. How do you prepare for a conversation like this? Lots of prayer, lots of
Yeah.
prayer. But how do you go into this like ready to go? Like, do they give you the prompts beforehand so you kind of know what to figure out? Like, how does that work?
Um, it's not normal for a show to give you the prompts beforehand. I was really surprised that a day, I believe, before shooting, they had sent me the prompts to my email. And so I was able to look them over and get an idea of what I wanted to talk about beforehand. Um, but getting into the video a little bit, it turns out that not everyone did receive the prompts beforehand, and it was actually requested via the trans women that those prompts be sent out. And so I think I may have been the only one on my side, or maybe Emily did too. Kristen definitely did not get the prompts beforehand. So that's really impressive that she was able to still speak with such a high level
Mm-hmm.
of intelligence and education on the subject. But from what I heard, the trans women caused quite a stir before shooting had even started. They basically formed a union and decided that they would not be coming on unless they got paid um, other than their travel costs, and they actually altered the prompts that were going to be used, and they all said that they would not appear if the prompts had not been changed. And Stassi, the one on the very far left end, um, got very very upset at one of the prompts about pronouns to the point where he said that he would walk off if it was not changed. He ended up staying, but that's where the big jump cut happened in the
Okay.
middle. because Stassi threw a fit.
I find it ironic because I've seen these people too, and they tend to use like the same talking points. I see a lot the same stats, and so do you know what the prompts were that they like wanted taken away? Do you know what the original ones were that they had such a fit about?
Um, well, definitely the pronouns one. Stassi said on set that he was uncomfortable with that question in general. That was the question that they had kind of formed their own little pact about and said that they wouldn't appear for. So that's why Stassi got very upset when he heard that it was going to be one of the prompts. Um, and then I could be wrong. And also Stassi talked about this on his TikTok or somewhere where I was able to
Okay.
learn more about it. But I think it was also the woman biology is something about womanhood. He also got upset by that prompt. He thought it was too like it was too basic and that we should be getting into the more um, up in the sky
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
One of the prompts was suggested by the three transgender women, and the Dr. Daff show actually did end up using it in the episode. So they had a lot of influence on the episode before we
Okay.
even got there, which was funny because even now thinking about it, like they were operating so much like men
Mm-hmm.
before. That's like asking for more pay, like, doing all these things, being bossy. So
And
it's
you're
just kind
like,
of funny
this
to
is
me.
weird. Yeah. Yeah. You're
I'm
like,
like,
your
well,
biology's coming out a little bit. Anyways.
yeah. So,
I
anyways.
mean, what does it feel like to sit across from these guys? Because at the end of the day, like they are men. And I hate
Mhm.
to be like this, but it's true. Like men do have usually more of a stronger presence than women, more I would even beg to say more harder ability to handle their emotions as far as anger and frustration and acting out goes, and
Yeah.
even with questions as simple as biology and pronouns, like it's clear that you're not really trying to get into any other stuff. It's like biology is the whole argument, so you don't want to
Yeah.
have it, which is like, okay, then why are you here? But what was it like sitting across from these guys? I mean, there had to be some tension, and I wouldn't even blame you for even being not fearful, but a little on edge at times because these are guys.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely was careful with my words throughout the entire thing. I did watch a blip of your first video where you kind of said, I like this girl, but she's already conceding by using their pronouns, saying her. I did that because I knew that if I didn't use their preferred pronouns, that would be the point that they would get stuck on the
Mm,
entire time. If I said he at any
mm,
point, it would completely defer from what the point I was trying to prove about
that's
gender
fair.
transitioning
Yeah.
children, about hormones being disruptive. And so I decided to concede on that one point for the sake of being able to talk about all the other things that I thought were so important. And actually,
Mm.
thank goodness the prompt came up about pronouns, where I was able to say, like, I don't believe that you are a woman. I only use these out of politeness for you. I don't have to if I don't want to. So,
Mm. That's fair.
but
I definitely get that. Not trying to distract from hey, like because they do, and they like
mhm,
to grab onto one thing because there really is no argument. Like when you get down to it, when you get down to the real nitty gritty of biology and all that, just like with abortion, like when you really get down to it, there is no argument. So you just kind of have to start pulling at strings. So I get that. That's fair.
yeah. But in terms of like how I felt, whether I felt in danger, I didn't really feel in danger, at least from the start, just because, I mean, when you meet these people, they're so feminine. They pretty much come off as just a gay guy to you.
Mm.
Um, and so it's, I wasn't really fearful at any point until Stassi said something about how, and I don't know if we're going to see it in this clip, but Stassi said something about how I'm going to have to face the consequences of not using their
Yes, I do.
pronouns.
Yes,
And
I do. I
that
think
was,
that's coming up.
yeah, I was like, what do you mean by that? But
Yeah,
other than that,
and it's, I mean, like that's a threat for sure. And then if I remember right from watching the video before, because I have watched what we were about to watch, like
mhm,
then it's like, oh, like and it's like not like fully clear, like, and then they try to kind of cover it like it wasn't just like a direct threat to you. I mean, it is. It's a direct threat. You're gonna have to face the consequence. I
mhm,
mean, what are these? Like, what is happening? And something else I noticed too is you did a really good job in the first part. That I already reacted to. And you said Kristen was her name, the girl in the blue dress.
Yes.
When she said something and they came at her, you did a great job of really having her back and stepping in and being like, "Well, actually no, I actually do agree with her."
Mhm.
And that's something that, and I'm not picking on Emily, but the only reason that I keep going back to her is because she is a well-known public figure in the conservative space.
Yeah.
And and I would say she's probably the most popular on that whole panel. I would think that you might agree that people
Oh yeah.
know her. I recognize her. Like you, people will see her on Pierce Morgan, and you see her, and to see her rarely, and I think it was a few times, so I'll give her that, but rarely step up and say things, to even go in and call these people beautiful. And she literally
Mhm.
says, if I saw you guys walking on the street, I would just have no idea. And there's a difference between what you were describing. I'm just going to go with the pronouns so that I can actually get out my real point so that they'll actually listen to what I'm saying, versus I'm going to 100% just say, and oh my gosh, you guys are so beautiful. And oh my gosh, if I saw you, I'd think you were chicks. I mean, when you're sitting there recording, right? And you're thinking, okay, I'm going to have three other conservative women. We're going to all have each other's backs because we have to in this space. We
Yeah.
have to have each other's backs. And Emily is over here not really having anybody's back much, I would say. Then you have the other girl on the other end who's like, I'm not a conservative. I literally was like, why are you here? Like, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be mean, but I'm like, there's a space for you. Go into that space. So how do you feel when you're hearing these things and watching it live?
Yeah. Well, first off, the girl who was dressed in all black with like the bleach blonde hair next to me, who said I'm actually not a conservative, not Emily. She was not supposed to be on the episode. She was the friend who came for moral support of the trans person dressed all in black on the far right side. Gosh, I wish I remembered their name. Now I feel bad. But
Wow.
so they came as she came as the friend of the trans person, and when one of the conservative girls couldn't make it for some reason, I'm pretty this is what I heard. They asked the friend, "Hey, are you conservative?" The friend said, "Sure." And they say, "Okay, let's mic you up." So all of the sudden, we have this person on our side who we know is friends with the trans person. And as you could see, the entire episode, they were not doing anything for our case. She
No.
pretty much just disagreed with everything we said. And why would she? She's best friends with the trans
Yeah.
person.
It probably would have just been better if she wasn't even on, honestly. It would
Yeah,
have just been a better conversation, but
she
okay.
took up she took up time speaking where we could have continued our points. So
And I
it's
find it
frustrating.
interesting that they don't put that in there. Like I had no idea. Like in the video, you don't see like, oh, and it would have been fine. I wish actually they had done that. Put in like something at the beginning. Somebody had to back out, so we have somebody who's kind of like on the whatever. And maybe they're not. Clearly I could tell they weren't really in the middle. But even just to say that, just to kind of put that out there would have been a little bit better than just titling the video conservative versus trans women. And I want to go back to something you said was at the beginning when you got a DM about this. You got a DM saying it was a conservative Christian women versus
Yes.
trans women, not conservative versus trans women. Because if I remember right, Emily is not a Christian, I don't think.
No, she's not. She's on her own journey, she said. I mean, I spoke with her after filming. She was very, very nice to me. But she's not a Christian, and I would say she's not even conservative either. When I was
Wow,
DM'd,
okay.
I was told that this would be conservative Christian women versus trans women. So to see the people who were on my side, who were sometimes not conservative and sometimes not Christian, was frustrating. They ended up, when they put the episode out, it was just conservative women, so they dropped that idea altogether. Um, but yeah, that was definitely frustrating because when you're trying to defend your beliefs with biblical beliefs, and somebody else is not on board,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't help. Not that it has
Yeah.
to be defended with the Bible. Logic is enough, but like,
Yes, but yes,
important.
and so basically you're going in there like, okay, it is genuinely just Kristen and I against these
Hmm.
people, because
We were
and you
like
had to
this.
have, yeah, and you had to have that mindset, because I just felt this sense of like disappointment, and I kind of see this sometimes watching these videos, like the Jubilee surrounded videos, and
Hmm.
they've gotten better at picking better conservatives, but like when this kind of content first started coming out, like the ones where you have to like stand, do you remember these? The ones where you have to like stand on the line of like agree, like strongly
Yeah,
agree, mid agree. And
the
like
spectrum
those,
episode.
yes. And those were kind of like the first ones that I saw, and they were like the worst conservatives ever. And the things I was hearing, I was like, and they've gotten slowly like better. I'm like, okay, we're picking better people, but like going into an environment where you're like, okay, I'm going to be surrounded by sisters in Christ and we're going to go at this together. And you've got like one sister in Christ, one person who you're like, why are you here? And the other person where you're like, maybe I can count on you, but then it kind of turns out you're not. And I'm interested to hear why you think that Emily is actually not a conservative from your point of view.
Yeah, well, she said this herself. This isn't even my point of view. I'm not sure how they edited it for the episode, but they told us to say what we consider ourselves to be. And Emily was like, "Well, well, sure, for the sake of this episode, I'll say I'm conservative." So she's not. She's not religious. She doesn't really care about family values. She really just cares about economics, to be honest, and a few small social issues that have to deal with conservatism, but by no means is she a conservative herself. So, and she'll say that. Um, so yeah, not a conservative.
So, were there, so any other, before we kind of like dive into watching this a little bit, like, was there anything that you noticed that was like edited out? Were there any other like cuts in the video where you were like, you were like, okay, we didn't include that. That's odd. Or like, yeah, I kind of saw that coming. Like, and how were the staff to you guys, the Christian conservative women versus the guys? Was there a difference? I mean, obviously you were stating a difference already that these guys basically had all of the input and you're like, oh, okay, I guess I'll just show up and go with whatever they had planned. But how did that kind of go? So give me a little bit more of the behind the scenes, anything you want to say before we kind of watch this video.
Yeah, I mean, the Daff show was incredible in terms of making us feel welcome. The set was the nicest I've seen. They had great accommodations for us girls, so I don't want to bash them in any way. The crew was very, very nice to all of us. I couldn't tell a difference in how they treated one group from the other. Um, I really just think it came down to the trans women. You know, they were able to negotiate pay
Mm,
and good for them. But you know what? That is like a male
yeah.
characteristic. Like they're thinking into that and they were able to have power to edit the prompts. Whereas, you know, I and the other conservative women were happy debating with what they provided. So it just kind of shows that they want to have the power. They want to be able to have everything catered to them. And then real women have to just deal with it. So.
And has anybody like from that? So when was this video recorded? I'm very curious to know that.
Oh my gosh, good question. It was recorded. It must have, you know what, the turnaround time was pretty quick. I want to say like 2 weeks after it was filmed, it was posted. So it was very,
Okay.
very quick. I can't even remember when we filmed. But yeah, it was a really quick turnaround time for the video. I was really surprised. Um, so yeah.
And before we watch, one more question. It was very clear from the get-go that they went after Kristen, I would say, the hardest in
Yeah.
a lot of ways. And I think that's genuinely because if I remember right, in her intro, one of the first things she said about herself was that she was a Christian or did something with faith. And I think you brought that up possibly like later on. Do you think that that's the reason that they came after her? And like, was that the vibe in the studio as well, that they were 100% like coming at her hard? Because they even were like, I can listen to you, I can't listen to you, basically. Like, was that the vibe too? Like, she could tell and you could tell, like, okay, wow, we're really coming after her right now.
Yeah, they were 100% coming after Kristen because she was being very unapologetic for her beliefs. And even the way she spoke, she wasn't trying to sugarcoat things as much as maybe I or the other girls were. So of course they were going to attack her the most. Um, yeah, I mean, you could kind of tell immediately they kind of just came after Kristen. A thing for me is like, and I think I even said it in the episode, like I don't want my politics to get in the way of how much like I care about people. And so
Mm.
I said that to them. Um, Kristen didn't have the opportunity or she didn't do that. So that might have also affected how they saw Kristen. But she is a very nice person, and I don't think she deserved half the hate she
Yeah.
got.
And I think that when you're saying that, I think that we have a really bad case of this in our society where people take loving somebody and caring about somebody as I'm affirming you.
Hmm.
And to me, that's not what that means. That means that I do have love for you, I do care about you, but I'm not going to sit here and affirm what you're saying. And so I feel like
Hmm.
when you were saying that to them, I almost feel like they took that as like, oh, okay, well, then she won't really be a problem, which then obviously to them, you are a big problem. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, I just feel like we have that you can't. And that's why I said from the beginning, I just don't think you can have a conversation without it turning into somewhat of an argument because to them, love means you have to accept everything I'm doing and everything I want to be and everywhere I'm at. And
Hmm.
I'm just going to put words in your mouth and tell me if I'm wrong. Love to you is I will love you and I'm going to love you, but I can't affirm where you're at. This is a sin. I'm not going to affirm where you're at. This is a delusion. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. And I hope that I got that across to them. What I didn't want to do was come at them with a bunch of condemnation and tell them, you're gross, you're unworthy,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to associate with you. I wanted them to know that there was so much love coming from my end and compassion, and I still feel that, like, how horrible would it be to be dealing with gender dysphoria? That's a hard thing in general. And I can't say for certain how I would handle that if I were in their shoes. So there's so much empathy for them,
Mm.
but also that doesn't change how I think about the situation.
And I know I keep saying this. I do have one more question before before we
No,
watch this.
keep
I'm
going.
sorry. So, gender dysphoria, yes. I do believe that some of these people don't actually struggle from that, and it is truly just become a thing that they've taken on to be a part of a group, to
Mhm.
have an identity in something because they refuse to put their identity in Christ and lose control over what they want to do. Did you get that vibe from any of them that this isn't truly gender dysphoria, that this isn't truly, okay, you're struggling with a mental health disorder, but we're putting it on a little bit, you know what I'm saying? Like we're putting on the Ritz because we just want to be here, be getting paid, and be doing that. Did you get that vibe from any of them?
That's a good question. I can't say for certain who might have been putting on a show and who genuinely felt like they were in the wrong body. Um, the guy at the end who was dressed in all black, I need to remember this. Okay, so the guy at the end who was dressed in all black, he genuinely, I feel for him because he did hold so many conservative beliefs. And I do genuinely feel that he is struggling with gender dysphoria, and that if it weren't true, that he would try to just be a man in his own
Yes.
body. Because he was incredibly nice. He held all these sincerely held conservative Christian beliefs, but then in this one area, he struggled so much. So, um, the other people, I mean, I don't know. Personally, if I was trying to look like a woman, I would try maybe a little harder. Blossom, I don't know what's going
Yeah,
on there.
yeah,
So
yeah.
if you wanna be a woman, you better try really hard.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah,
sometimes I see people where I'm like, you're not even, are you
yeah,
serious? I see your 5 o'clock
yeah,
shadow. I see your
yeah,
beard.
yeah. You're like, I'm a woman and I actually put more effort into looking like a woman than you do right now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm actually one. Yes.
Yeah. So
Says that is wrong.
I believe everyone should be addressed by their chosen pronouns.
I don't really think that this is a debatable topic. I think that that's a basic bare minimum of how trans people should be treated. I don't really have anything to say. I just think that it's a bare minimum. And if it's that difficult for you to respect a trans person's pronouns, I think you should probably go do some internal work on yourself.
I mean, what does that mean? Okay, let me just start right here already. I already have to do this. What does that mean? You have to go do internal work on yourself because you don't agree with me. And just giving that behind the scenes of what you were talking about, how, because he is the one that did not want to do the pronouns prompt. And you
correct.
can tell now that you've told me this, he was like, I don't really, basically, I don't get why we're talking about this, done.
Yeah, and he threatened to walk off set in that moment when he heard the prompt. He was like, I'm going to leave. I was told this wouldn't be included. This is extremely disrespectful. Then the crew was able to talk him down and say, you don't have to respond if you don't want to have this dialogue. And then he said that. So
And are you just sitting there like, what, where am I? Like, what is happening? Like, you come here, and this is the thing, like, this is why I struggle, and this is why I say this can't be a conversation. Because you're going to get up and walk out because it's actually one of the most basic questions. It's one of the most basic parts of this argument. And not basic, boring, basic, like, this is the foundation of this argument. Like, are you guys just sitting there like, this is ridiculous? I don't even know.
yeah, I mean, it felt like I was watching a toddler have a temper
Oh my
tantrum. Like,
goodness.
that's how I felt just watching him be angry at a prompt he saw that was going to be on the list and that he isn't supposed to have control over. It's the Dr. Daff show, not the Stassi show.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Want to add, I agree with you completely.
Thank you.
If I feel like respect needs to be like just something, like just a common staple. Like we should not be fighting with each other.
I can't help but like laugh now, knowing what you said, that this person wasn't even, because I remember seeing this person being like, okay, you know, like conservatives, we all look different. You know, I've got a couple tattoos. Oh, I'm a little quirky too. And now it's funny because now I'm like, no, you weren't even supposed to be here. Now I'm understanding. I'm like, you know what I'm saying? It's just
Like,
funny watching this.
America, our first foundation is supposed to be respect. This is kind of off topic, but I rave. I believe in plur, peace, love, unity, respect. I have it tattooed on me. I believe everybody should just respect each other.
I just feel like
And
I watched you in this video. Just close your eyes for a second. Is that what just happened? I feel like I just saw you for a second. Just close your eyes.
Yes.
Because you're like,
I was like,
okay.
what universe am I in? First of all, what was that acronym? Plur? I don't
know
even
what
want to know what that meant.
I don't know what
It
that
was
means.
just so frustrating seeing the crew call on her to speak when we actually did research. We actually are passionate about this issue. We actually came as
Yes.
conservative women, some of us Christian women, to talk about this. And then we had this chick just talking about raves.
I don't even know what the craziest thing I have done was just recent, and I went to a throwback Disney Channel party. And that is the craziest thing I've ever done in my life. Okay. And so hearing this girl, you know, she's like, plur. I was like, what? And then this, like, the guy's like, oh, plur. I'm like, okay. You know, and that should
I'm
have been
like,
my
why
first
do you all
clue.
know?
Yeah. I'm like, okay, there's a difference here because 3 of us on this side don't know what that means and you know what that means. So like I feel like I'm like I have the inside scoop. I can't watch this like seriously now. This
But
part.
like that's not a hard concept.
Yeah.
It's just it's simple, it's easy.
Well, and also explain to me why respect only goes one way. Why do we have to be the people that are respecting you when I tell you, actually, I'm uncomfortable calling you a woman because it's very obvious that you're a man and always will be, and that makes me uncomfortable, but that's not respect. Like, and she says, and our country was built on the foundation of respect. But it's like our country was actually built on truth and actually turning away from people who were forcing us to do things that we knew weren't true and that we knew weren't a part of our morals. And so it's like, no, that's actually like one of the first things you learn. And I'm like, it wasn't very respectful. Like the Boston Tea Party was low-key disrespectful. Okay. I'm like, the vibe was not respect.
Just a little.
You know? And so it's like, I can't even imagine. Like now I'm not even there. And like the frustration I feel knowing like this person's not even clearly in the middle and wasn't even supposed to be there. I mean, how do you feel about that when these people tell you respect, but you're like, but you're not respecting me. I mean, how do you even like combat that? What do you even do?
Well, you just know that they're all crazy. I mean, it even came up during the episode. I talked about my faith near the end and about how, you know, I don't agree with what they say, but I still care about them. And, you know, my faith is important to me. So I'm going to see things through that lens. I understand why they see things through a different lens if they are not following God. And Stassi immediately went on the attack and was like, well, we don't believe what you believe, and that's not important. And I go, wait a second. You don't believe what I believe. I don't believe what you believe. They act like me being a Christian is somehow making my points like refutable. But the fact of the matter is they're following a religion too. They're also following an ideology. It's an ideology of transgenderism, liberalism, Marxism. And I'm sorry that I choose to follow Christ and you're choosing to follow 15,000 other things.
That's good. That's good. I like that.
And it only gets difficult when it just trying to think. It only becomes difficult
when
if
politics get in the way. Like when politics get in the way.
I don't think so.
Yes.
I think it's a matter of politeness, and politeness is personal. Like, I'm getting to know you guys now and gaining a respect for you coming on this show and sharing how you feel, and that's personal. So I would like to be polite and speak to you and address you how you'd like to be, you know, addressed. But I feel like compelled speech where we have to address any trans person by their pronouns that we don't know is government overreach. So I think there has to be that personal relationship and not a forced speech.
I actually would almost, and you tell me, because the point that you made earlier, which was I'm going to use this person's pronoun right now in this moment so that they can't go on the defense, attack me for that, and completely dismantle my argument and distract. I get that. And I actually will concede on that and agree with you on that, because your point of view from that is good. And I like that. But what she's saying about, and maybe I'm hearing it wrong, and I could be, and I'd love for you to correct me, is once we get on a personal, polite level, I'll address you the way you want to be addressed. But I actually would even disagree with that. Because I almost feel like it's still, I mean, I'm not going to, you know, like, I'm not going to just speak in lies because now I think you're a pretty cool, all right person. Is that kind of what she's saying? And do you disagree with me, disagree with her? What's your point of view on that?
You know, it's hard because I've never been faced with, seriously faced with where I've had to use pronouns that weren't a person's biological pronouns. I have friends who have had to deal with this. I actually have a friend I was just talking to the other day where in college she had roommates that were transgender and requested that she use their pronouns. And she said, I can't do that. I'm sorry. It goes against what I believe. I will use your name, and that's just how I'll address you. I think that's great. And she had conviction in that area, and she decided to do what she felt was right. You know, I had a workplace setting where I had a transgender peer who I was
coworker,
and coworker, and I also decided to just use their name. I think I might have used their pronoun. They wanted to be they, so you know, once in a while I did. But I think it ultimately comes down to, in that moment, whether or not it's worth it to, you know, have to deal with that. I'm only seeing this person at work, so I'm going to try to just keep things as low conflict as possible. I've never really been faced. I mean, I guess here I was faced with the situation where I had to use their pronouns. It's a really hard thing. I think many of us say that we wouldn't use a person's pronouns in real life, but when it comes down to it and you're faced with a human who hasn't done anything to wrong you yet, and they're saying, I want to be called by these pronouns, or your employer is saying, please use these pronouns, it's really, really hard to make that decision to go against it. I've done both. I mean, here on this show, I used her, even though they're men. There's been situations where I have decided not to, and there's been situations where I've just tried to avoid it altogether. So I think it ultimately comes down to what your personal conviction is on the subject. They will never be women. I can see what Kristen is saying here. To keep it short, I can understand what Kristen is saying here. She's saying that she should not have to use your pronouns, and she personally does not believe that using her for these people makes them a woman all of a sudden. But for the sake of politeness in this conversation, she's deciding, okay, yes, I will use your pronouns in that way. I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess this is a subject that I haven't, 100% tied all the knots on, because I totally see what you're talking about. When we use her for a man, it's conceding on that point, and it's feeding into the delusion
Yeah.
of, you're a woman, I'm going to address you as a woman, and then it kind of gives them more ammo to continue digging themselves in that hole. So I completely understand what you're saying, and I might even develop stronger beliefs going forward on that subject.
And I even see using the name that they want, because, at the end of the day, people do change their names. Like,
Mhm.
I used to have a friend, and she went by one name, and then all of a sudden she just like changed her name to a completely different name. And I was like, okay. But then obviously I didn't just like, she was like, oh, I like this name better. So I was like, all right. And so I can even see that, like calling Blossom, for example, Blossom. But if you know what I'm saying? But if I were to be with him and he were to be like, you have to do this. And it's tough, because when you're in a intimate setting like that with these people, you also kind of have to read the room as well, because at the end of the day, you don't want to put yourself in danger over a pronoun, because it is a big deal, because you do concede an argument, in my opinion, when you use it. But it's also like, is this a pronoun thing worth having this blow up in my face? So I definitely see where you're
Forced
coming from
to
with
call
that.
any trans person by their pronouns, because there are so many. I think right now we're at 72 or 73 different genders. There are some that I read that's spelled ZE or XA, and do people even know what those are? How can everyone keep track
Why
of
do
all
we
of
need to
them?
know though? Like, if you came up to
That's so scary. I remember watching this. That, like, actually, like, all jokes aside, frightens me, because why do you need to know is a crazy question to ask. Like, why do you need to know what you're saying? Just say what we want you to say. It's scary. That's like a scary thing. That's not showing respect. That's a cult. When you were talking about they're in their own ideology, they're in their own religion, it's the belief in themselves. Themselves are God. You need to believe in me and what I say and want, or else you are going against me, my own God. And so, like, when you hear that, I mean, what went through your head when Kristen made a very valid point? How am I supposed to know? I don't even, what's going on? What's the ZE and all this crap? And this guy is going to look at her and say, well, why do you even need to know what you're saying? What goes through your head when you hear that?
Honestly, it makes me think about how the enemy, the devil, just wants to distort things and flip them upside down. I mean, think about it. If the devil can get us to discard gender, and we just can say whatever we want, and men are women and women are men, it really ruins the actual value of being a man. It ruins the value of what God did when he made the woman. And so honestly, they talk about respect. All I see is disrespect, because every single time they try to say, I'm just as woman as you, or womanhood is not based on biology, they are completely disregarding what it means to be a woman, our experiences as women, and they will never know. They will never know what it's like to have hormone fluctuations like a real woman does. They will never know what it's like to have a period, or to give birth to a child, or to feel the level of empathy or anxiety that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. I mean, think about it. As a woman, like, we are constantly running through a million scenarios in our head, because that's what we do as women. These guys will never, ever, ever be able to match that, no matter how many hormones they pump into their body, no matter how big their fake breasts are, or what wig they're wearing that day is, So it really just makes me think about how the enemy has really entered into our country and allowed these things to just distort our perception of reality and where our value is as men and women.
And this guy in particular really tries to pull at the heartstrings the whole time. And I think this was at the tail end of my last video, where he says something along the lines of, like, why can't children just play with their friends? Like, why can't we just let children do fun things? And it's like It's because that's the only thing that they can pull, because there are no real facts to back anything up. That's why they don't want to talk about biology, and that's why they don't even want to talk about faith or anything like that. But the only thing they can pull from is like, you want kids to be sad. You suck because you want people to be sad, you know?
And did you see this person earlier on in the episode kept referencing their job, and they go, well, I'm not going to talk about my job, but blah, blah, blah. Then he concedes that he actually works as a camp counselor for 50 trans kids. This is the person we have with our young children, continuing to indoctrinate them. So it's actually disgusting. And I can tell why he didn't want to say it, because that sounds creepy.
Yes.
What do you mean you are hanging out with 50 children
Yes.
every single year at camp, indoctrinating them with your beliefs? You're wearing a dress and you're telling them that in order to be happy, they need to do all these things. So
Ugh.
it
Just
was just
awful.
insane.
To me and said, "Can you call me Sock? Work. I will gladly call you Sock if it makes you happy." And I'm going to be honest, like, I don't even really care if you wanted to call me he, him. I'm very secure with who I am. I'm very secure with who I surround myself with. And I believe it's your right to say whatever you want. Sure. And I believe it's your right to deal with the consequences that come with saying whatever you want. That's completely fine. I just think the topic is really weird to go out of your way to make somebody feel upset or sad about themselves when they're just being like, can you please call me this thing?
That's not what I said.
Wait, I don't believe in going out of your way to disrespect people, but I'm sorry.
I know,
If I see Lily Tino, that is a man. I'm calling him a man. That is, by the way, the worst representation of trans people. He is legally I can't say, but starts with a P in my mind. But that is a dude, and I'm calling it he, him.
But where is like that attitude with all of the guys that are actually sitting right in front of her? Like, this is the problem too, and I do see conservatives do this, and this bothers me a lot. Because you have like a Blair White situation, you have a Caitlyn Jenner situation, you know, and I also think that is where it really comes down to, are you a Christian conservative or are you just a conservative? Because in my opinion, and you might disagree, and that would be a very interesting conversation to have. If you're a Christian conservative, you're not vibing with a Blair White or a Caitlyn Jenner. Now, maybe you guys have some things in common. That's cool. I would say that you had some things in common with the guy at the end here that had the black hoodie on. You guys had things in common. That's totally fair, right? But like, you're not going to start palling around, hanging out, and going and vibing with him and supporting him. Because at the end of the day, his whole reality goes against your morals. And so this is my problem when, you know, Emily brings up the Lily Tino. Just because they're not an absolute total creep, if there's still a guy saying that they're a woman or vice versa, we should still be standing in our truth that that is not okay. Like, just because this guy at the end here in the black hoodie, I go to him because, to me, like you said too, it is obvious that this is a mental disorder, and that I also get the vibe from when I watched this that part of him doesn't really want this life for himself, because he actually talks about wanting a family. And that, I'm like, that is a really natural response for you to have. And it actually makes me really sad that you think that you are stuck like this, because you're not. You don't have to be. And so when I hear her pulling out like one of the creepiest ones, and we do this like with Dylan Mulvaney too. I mean, creeps, right? And these people might not be total creeps, but like, we have to stand in our truth and in our morals. You know, and do you agree or disagree with what I'm saying?
No, I do agree. I see where you're coming from. I think, and I fall victim to it, where you see somebody like a Blair White who concedes on certain points, who has been really outspoken about not wanting children to gender transition and holding a lot of other conservative beliefs, but Blair White himself is dressing up as a woman.
Yes.
I see what you're saying there. I think literally a few seconds later in this episode, you know, Emily says something about like, you know, Blair White, I like what she has to say. And then Blossom goes, oh my gosh, give me a break. Blair White is crazy. And I go and I say, I like Blair White. So I mean, I do like Blair White because I know he has been so outspoken about so many issues, trans issues. Yeah, Blair White should not be at the forefront of the conversation because Blair White is actively contributing to this idea and showing that he thinks it's okay to alter your body surgically. I see what you're saying there, that we shouldn't just put people up on a pedestal just because they don't agree in one area, but they're living in complete lies in the other area.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, and I hope this isn't I the last thing I want to do is come off like I'm trying to start an argument with you. I hope that's totally not coming off, because that's not what I mean at all. I just, it frustrates me sometimes because I do see conservatives kind of picking and choosing here and there. Like you'll even have, gay conservatives coming out and they're hiring, surrogates so that they can have children. And you see other conservatives, hyping them up and being happy for them. And that's why I say it really comes down to, are you a Christian conservative, or do you just have conservative views? And so that kind of makes sense where Emily is coming from. And I think it's okay, to look at people and go, I agree with this opinion, so I am going to support you when you say this opinion that I agree with. Thank you for saying that. But it's like, we can't just go into this, but I'm going to pick and so it's the picking and choosing for me, if that makes sense.
I'd have to agree
You
with
feel
you on
like that she is the I'm going to say she. If you feel like she's the worst trans person, that's your opinion.
Yeah,
but the reality
for
of it is, you learned pronouns when you were in first grade English class. You use pronouns every single day.
I only
It's
know
not, to your
she and
point.
him.
But here's the thing. But here's the thing, to your point, though, because I think you bring up an interesting point about the expansiveness of pronouns, right? But the reality of it is, there's different types. There's the subject pronouns, the object pronouns, the possessive pronouns, the interrogative pronouns. Like, you use yours and mine each and every day. And so what I'm saying is, I agree with those that say that they just want basic respect. And it seems like you have the respect. You're there. So I think with me, it's kind of confusing, because you sit here and you just told us that you want to be polite and address us the way we want to. That's what trans people just want you to do.
And I don't think we're talking about
whatever
government
pronoun it
override. I think
is.
we're talking about like kind of what you said, honestly, like personal politeness.
Or in the
Yes.
workplace, I don't want to be forced to call somebody something absolutely ridiculous. It's like, I think we should just keep the two. He and she.
But that's not
him
your choice,
and her.
babe. That's not really your choice.
Well, it's just,
I hear you.
Yeah,
I
Your
really
choice
hear you.
either, though, to change the entire trajectory
That's not what
of
I'm doing,
male and
though.
female.
I butted in on the show,
Yeah.
and now I'm about to butt in with it. I disagree
Yes,
so
yes.
much. Okay, I'm about to say it in the video, but how crazy that Stassi just said, you don't get to decide what happens. You don't get to decide the pronouns. You don't get to decide the rules.
Yes.
But
And
you're
the
deciding
word
the rules.
choice. The word choice that he says, choice,
Mhm.
is filled to the brim with irony, because that's their whole thing on every issue, basically. I mean, with abortion, it's your choice. With your gender, it's your choice. With who you want to be with, that's your choice. But when you have a choice that does not line up with the choice that I want, you have to have your choice taken away.
Isn't it so, honestly demonic? Like, these people are
Yeah.
talking so much about choice. They think that all these things they're doing is freedom. They think the fact that they can do it is freedom, but they're digging themselves into such a deep, dark hole. It's so sad. But feel free to press play. I'm pretty sure I say the exact same thing I just said right now.
Male for the so I mean, you just said
Okay, so there was a cut there. Were people getting into it? Or was that just an editing thing? Because every time there was a cut, in my mind, I was like, what's going on?
Yeah, I think they just started to talk over me. And any time where people really just started to talk over each other, they would pause it and say, okay, you talk. Because they didn't want it to look too much like an argument. They definitely were trying their best to talk over me, though. It was
Also,
you could tell
quick
it was a
side
sore
note.
spot.
Yeah. Also, quick side note, when this first started, right? And you go into these videos and you're like, who did they pick to be the conservative, right? You're like, and it was so funny. I don't know if I said this in the first time, but when I first saw you in this video, I couldn't tell that those were like sunglasses. I thought you were genuinely wearing like cat ears. And I literally was like, you've got to be freaking kidding me that they picked that they picked the cat ear wearing girl to be on. And then I was like, wait, those are sunglasses.
And I forgot that I was wearing them. So that kills me that you thought they were ears, and there were probably at least a couple other people who thought they were ears. That's going to haunt me.
It's just,
That
it's
is going
so
to haunt
funny
me.
talking to you now because like it took me a second because I literally was like, no way they picked some cat ear wearing girl. But I'm like, no,
Furry.
those are just sunglasses. Those are just sunglasses. For the people out
Oh
there
my
who
gosh.
also think she's wearing cat ears, they are just sunglasses. They are.
allowed to change that. But the trans movement, the entire thing is trying to change what has been for thousands of years. And at the end of the day, I mean, I have my beliefs. I don't think we should have to change all of society for a supposed 1% of the population. And I believe that for many other things. I have my own trials and tribulations, but I don't think the world should have to cater to me just because of my specific niche issues. You know what I mean?
But you
And
should
so-
be respected for your pronouns.
Absolutely.
You
And
deserve
I don't
respect
think I've
for
used
that.
any wrong pronouns here today, but I don't think I should have to. I think if I were to use the pronouns that you don't want me to use, then you know what? Tough. Like,
No, then
there-
you get to reap the consequences of that.
But what are the consequences?
That part.
Wait. This is extremely important. If she calls you he him, what are the consequences? Because to me, that sounds like
I don't have to
sounds
engage
that
in the
sounds like a
conversation.
threat.
It does sound like a threat.
So
And
here's
that's
the
an
thing,
issue
though.
if it's a threat.
So here's the thing, though. Let's address that. It's not necessarily a threat, but there are consequences for your actions. So if you were to do that in the workplace, if you were to misgender me, that would be considered transphobia, and that is against company policy.
100%.
And so little stuff like that, whether you agree with that or not, little stuff like that matters. So when she was saying that, it doesn't mean a threat.
No.
It means that in
Yeah, I
certain
want to be clear on
situations,
that. That's not
there
what
could be
No, I mean, like,
consequences
I don't
for
have
that.
to
This is
engage.
where you're
Not us both doing the female head. If you rewind this, we just did that. I looked at the exact same time. It was just the. I mean, first off, that's my favorite part of the video, and when I recorded this video the first time, the part 1, I had actually recorded the entirety of it, and then I go to watch the part, like the rest of this video, and the sound cut off, and so that's why I had to come back and re-record it. And so I've seen all this, and in the first one that I recorded, when I watched that, I said this, and again, not just saying it because you're here, I said that was my favorite moment because you were like so polite, so well spoken, and then it's just, well, tough. And that was my favorite part of the whole time because the whole time you had been like so polite and so like just really straight to the point, but really like guarded in what you're saying. And then it was just, well, tough. And it was my favorite part. And then, I mean, you'll have to reap the consequences. But that's not a threat though. That's not a threat, but there are consequences. Like, and it's also like, there's no job worth having that I have to just flip upside down and turn around 5 times for, and things that I say that they'd threaten to like get rid of me for that.
Yeah.
I mean, and so, I mean, thankfully these girls had your back. They really did. They were like, let's pause. Let's stop right here. I mean, like when you hear that, I mean, your first instinct has to be like, are these people wanting, are the consequences like hurting me? Like, that's what that feels like.
Yeah. And it's so funny that they say that because an actual woman would, with, manners, would never say that to
No.
another woman because we know what that means. That means, oh, are you threatening me physically?
Yes.
Like, only a man would say that to a woman and not even realize what they did because that's what men are naturally. They're more aggressive. They don't think before they say things like that. So it just goes to show, you can put lipstick on a pig, but it comes through. It comes through.
Yeah.
And you're right. Yeah. That entire time I was trying to choose my words carefully, but then I go tough. I think that was just my frustration bubbling to the surface because you really do think when you enter this and you're polite and kind that they're going to act like that too. But they don't.
No,
And so
they don't.
I think it was at this point that I was realizing, oh, it really doesn't matter what I say
Yeah.
to you. You're still going to be crazy.
And this is the thing I feel like sometimes we have to understand is there are 100% certain instances where the way you say things, like maybe in an intimate setting like this, there are certain things that you're like, I'm going to watch what I say so that what I really want to come across comes through. However, though, I do feel like we have a problem as conservatives where we watch how we say things so much that it's like as this person would say, nothing's coming through, babes. Okay?
Yeah.
Nothing's happening here. And like and if you watch, right? If you watch how these guys talk to you, tell me one time that they watched how they said things. How they said it. I mean, they even were like, and they said it really nice. Like, that's the thing. They were like, oh, and if you keep doing that, you'll reap the consequences. I said it nice, but like, I'm sorry. What the HEW hockey sticks did you just say? You just said I'm going to have consequences for speaking?
Yeah, as you're standing 6 feet 2 inches tall and
Yes.
200
Yes.
something pounds.
This whole video comes to show, at the end of the day, in general, how you say things does not matter. It is what you're saying. Because these people, even though you were super polite, still looked at you and said you were going to reap consequences. And then, of course, tried to go back and be like, oh, no, you said that. Like, that's crazy. And because it wasn't like, and if you, don't use the pronouns of a trans person, then their feelings will be really hurt, or you'll be disrespecting them. The words were chosen, and because they said it more than once as well. And that's the crazy part.
Yeah, and Stassi did come to me after filming was over and apologized for the way he said that. He was like, I apologize. I did not mean for it to come off as threatening. I don't want you to feel threatened. I'm on your team. While I appreciate that, it's also like you said it because you meant it.
Yeah.
In the heat of the moment, you said what you truly thought.
Mm.
And I'm not going to forget that, and I already knew that coming on. Like, they want to act like women, but they still will think like men. So,
And that's
took it with a
good.
grain
In
of
the
salt.
heat of the moment, you said what you truly felt. And you see that a lot of times with these people, where when they get really angry and they finally say the truth, it's not, I just want to be like you guys. It's never that. It's never that at the end of the day. I've never, in the heat of the moment, actually heard one of these people want to just be like us. It's never that. It's always to the extremes, to the nines.
Thank you for clarifying that.
for sure.
Thank you for clarifying that. As a woman, the first thing I think, being on guard all the time, is like, oh, you're now threatening my safety as a woman,
Yeah,
and that
I
would
get
freak me
that.
out.
Yeah. No, I can hear
Um,
you.
So
I think
as
it was.
a
Go
oh,
ahead.
sorry, I
No,
was just
no,
gonna say,
you're
as
good,
the only
Tracy.
person who did the downvote, I actually think I agree much more with you than anyone here. For example, if someone comes up to me and they tell me, refer to me as sock, I'm gonna be like internally, okay, whatever, but I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna be like, yeah, sure, why not, sock. But at the end of the day, I don't think it should be, as you said, legally allowed. But like, I know some people, I'm in group chats, like, in group chats with guys, and like, let's say 5 of them are like, oh, you're pretty. Then they know I'm a guy, and then they're like, oh, you're a fucking, you're a dude, he, him, whatever. And I'm just like, okay, whatever. You guys are gay. Who cares? And then it's like, everyone else in there is like,
We're divulging.
she,
I don't
her,
know what's
whatever.
being said.
So then I
I
can
don't
just ignore the
understand what's
people who are like
happening.
he, him, whatever. Like, okay, you guys are doing that intentionally. You're gonna call me one thing, and then as soon as you find out I'm trans, you're gonna completely back on it, and then go back to he, him. Like, I think that's a little ridiculous and silly. But at the end of the day, it's just like, whatever, as she said, I'm secure in myself enough to not really care. And when it comes to the whole consequence thing, I just think it really matters on intent. I think if you're intentionally going out of your way to try to hurt someone and to try to bully someone, then yeah, I do think that there is going to be a little bit of consequences. Not necessary, but like, if you come up to someone, like, let's say I'm at work and then someone comes up to me, accidentally thinks I'm a guy, I'm not going to be like, oh, HR, come fire this person. Yeah. So like, that's just my take on
I
it.
kind of feel like you guys would, though. I feel like you would.
No.
He's so rude.
No.
Yeah, come on.
Well, there are people that are trying. Well, that's the thing. People try.
I feel like
You can
you're
tell-
waiting for
but
it.
When a trans woman can tell when somebody is genuinely trying.
But like, just because you think that the truth is hurtful doesn't mean that it shouldn't be said. Like, that's the thing. And I think I say this earlier on too, because, like, when you're a parent, because I gave birth to my daughter a year and a half ago. She'll be a year and a half on the 8th. And, she's my most favorite person in this whole world. Like, she's my little best pal, like, just today we grabbed our little purses and we went thrifting together and we just walk around together. Right. But like, I have to be real with her, when she does something that's against what God tells us to do, or against the truth. And even her little self, she can barely even speak, lies in her own way. Whether or not that's, where did you put that? And then she's like, she'll literally go like this. And then later I'm like, clearly you put it right here in your potty training toilet. Why did you take my phone and put it in your potty training toilet? You know what I'm saying? And it's like, because we're all sinners. But at the end of the day, I can't just, because I love her so much and because I think she's so cute and I want to be her best pal, not tell her the truth. And when I discipline her, I can tell she'll cry. She doesn't like that. She doesn't like timeouts. They're hurtful to her. They hurt her feelings, and I understand that. But as her parent, I have a responsibility to tell her the truth. And not only as her parent, as hopefully one day a sister in Christ, and just as a person who knows her. And with any girlfriend you have, you know, if they were to go off and do something that wasn't truthful or against the truth, as a girlfriend, you hold that person accountable. You look at them and go, hey, that's just not it, sis. And so when I hear these people just so blatantly going against the truth and just not caring, I don't even, it blows my mind. It blows my mind.
Yeah, because it's so opposite to what we as Christians are trying to do. Even for myself, I have to be honest with myself all of the time. There's things that I want to do that I resist because I'm trying to be true to God's word. I'm trying to be a productive member of society. There's so many areas, like,
For sure.
as a girl, modesty is like one of the biggest things that we struggle with sometimes. Do I naturally want attention from guys? Yes. But I know that as a Christian, there's a way I ought to dress. There's a way I ought to present myself that is most honoring to God. And so I have to resist my flesh in that way and dress in a way that's, going to be more honoring to him. In a similar way, these people, they say, like, well, it's what I want to do. It's what I want to do. It's my truth. They think that there's not something that other people struggle with, that they're on a daily basis, that they are dying to their own flesh. And so I wish they would see it more that way and not in a condemning way where it's like, I'm attacking you, because we all have things we struggle with.
Yes.
We all have to lay it down.
And that's why I say a lot on this show as well. I wish that people would actually be more honest about struggles that they've had. I wish more people would dive into their testimonies. And I've even talked about on this show my previous past with like sexual assault and everything else. And a lot of people are like, wow, that's intense. Wow, that's really serious. Or like, wow, that's like a private thing. I can't believe she opened up about it. But I open up about it because God used those times in my life, and the times when either there was sexual assault or I went through, a bad period of time where, there were things that I was doing that were bad, like premarital sex or alcohol and alcohol abuse and things like that. And I talk about that because God used that part of my life to shape me into the mother, wife, and woman of faith that I am today. And I wish that more people would do that, to your point, because maybe some of these people would say, okay, they're not coming at me like, oh, I'm perfect and you're not. They're coming at me like, wow, they've had struggles and yet they got out of them. And how did you do that? Because it's not just you. And that's why when these men make themselves their own God, they will always fail because they are sinners. And when we make God, Lord Jesus Christ, our God, he will never fail us because he is perfect. And we're putting our sinful, undeserving selves into your hands. Please take over my life. I cannot do this alone. And that's why you see these people, diving into that. And that's why I just wish, like, to your point, that in love, we went, hey, I just want to tell you what I've been through. I want to tell you the struggles I've had, the sins that I've had. And it goes down to even with men, for example, men more so than women really struggle with pornography. I wish that more men would step up and step out about their struggles with that, so that when younger men coming up are struggling with that, they don't feel so condemned and alone, because I feel like that's what the devil wants. He wants you to feel like, oh, you fell into that sin. Well, now, no, you're not worthy of anything. You just have to be in it and lie in it and dig in it. And that's what I feel like from this guy on the far right in the black hoodie. because I do sometimes get this vibe like he doesn't really want this for himself. Like he says I'm confident in myself, but I'm like, not like these other people. And you can tell just in the way he's dressed, in the way he acts, and the things that he wants out of life. You can tell.
Yeah. And he's only 18 or 19, I believe.
Oh,
So he's a child who's just been failed by society, been failed by either his parents or his friends or doctors, you know. So we really ought to feel bad. This young man is a victim of
yes.
what has occurred to him. These other people, I have less grace for
Yeah,
them because it's like you're a
just a little bit.
full-grown adult. You have experienced life and you're deciding to do this now.
Yeah.
But for him, I have a little bit more compassion.
You're genuinely trying to learn and trying to grow. I'm not going to penalize you for that, but I think it's when it comes to being malicious that's the problem.
Yeah, I work in customer service. So I mean, I work with people every single day. So it does happen, you know? I think it's about intent. And I think that's a really good place to
I'm
kind of
feeling
bring
like
that
it's
as, like,
Sephora.
if
That's
I know
the vibe.
somebody just as like
I'm getting a
confused, there's been
Sephora vibe. It's
plenty
gotta be
of
Sephora.
situations. Like I'm
Like,
earlier in
it's
my
gotta be.
transition. I am gonna offer grace and I'm gonna offer space. Now I bring nuance. Like if it's intentional, you can often see, especially if you correct somebody, which I'm gonna be so honest, I normally won't. Like I'm not gonna be, I don't care. Like I just feel we should be
sure.
respected where we're at. And going kind of back to what I said about the consequences, I really did just mean I don't have to engage with you. Like
It sounded like you wanted to meet her outside.
No, that's how it sounded to me. And that's why I was like, that's an issue.
Yeah.
And that's why I
but that's why I'm
clarified it. I
clarifying.
clarified
Yeah.
it.
No, I just don't, I wouldn't engage with you.
Yeah.
As if I was met there, you know.
Can I just say too, I mean, obviously you're not going to agree. I do not believe in protected speech for everybody. I do not believe in hate speech. I don't believe in any of that. It's either no speech to me or all speech. So for me, the fact that I could be working with a trans woman, and if this guy like was like, hey baby or whatever to me, like women have been through hell in the workplace since like the dawn of time. I think of it, my personal experience. So it's like the fact that I could like accidentally misgender someone and then they could go to HR and I could lose my job as a woman to me is so crazy.
Yeah, and
so legally I couldn't get behind that.
Yeah, and like to me, like I do agree. I think that, you know, like I said, if it is an accident, then yeah, that's wrong. But I think if you're maliciously, you know, and there's, like she said, you can tell when someone's kind of being malicious about it, even if you don't correct them. You know, sometimes the people like stare at you and then they'll say it, or like, you know, I work in customer service too. I worked Del Taco shift manager at one point, and you know, I had some woman come up and like screaming in my face. This was during COVID era. You know, calling me like, I can't tell if you're a fucking man or a woman or this, that, you know, because my voice is the way it is. My voice is T, and, you know, but when I have my hair fully back, you know, I'm giving forehead. So obviously it's
Can
going
I
to
point
be.
out I get called trans 5,000 times a day?
I can believe
Yeah.
it.
No,
And the same
Like,
way.
I can
and the same
believe
way
it
you
is
said that-
crazy. I would literally crumble to the ground. If I was like, oh, I've been called trans and somebody was like, I could believe it. I don't know about you, but like I would
That
probably
was
just
so
pass out.
rude. Yeah, that was so. And Blossom said it so casually. He was like, I could believe it. Excuse me? That is so.
I know.
What? How disrespectful. But yeah, that's even that part is sad. Where it's like, you could try to. If you look like a woman, a person should be able to know you are a woman. I don't understand. And this is where it's like, oh my gosh, we seriously, like the West we've gotten ourselves in such a pickle. Like I think we've become so self-actualized that now we're just making things up for fun so we could have struggles. Let me just say I'm the wrong gender so that I could just spice my life up a little bit. It's actually crazy. Poor Emily. You know,
Yeah,
people
I
are
know.
kind
I like hearing that
and
again.
she's gorgeous.
I would
so, like-
I think I would just have I would pull like a Stassi and just be like, I'm gonna walk out. I would. I could not sit there if somebody was like, yeah, I can see it for sure. I'd be like, oh, okay, I have to go cry in the bathroom thinking that people think that I'm a dude. That's the worst.
Yeah, and she's objectively very pretty. So
Yes.
it's like, okay, where's the bar now? You think Emily is trans?
I know. I don't. Oh boy.
5,000. Go to my comment section.
And the same way that you said women's safety, it's also trans women's safety too. Like, you know, men do approach us and may not always know the tea. And so we also experience that same harassment that you do experience as well too. You know what I mean?
I just want us to be equally protected. I don't want someone to have extra benefits. That's all I mean. Like if I'm getting harassed, you're getting harassed. I want it dealt with HR the same way. I don't want to be like, wait,
Like
you
if
get,
someone's
like,
coming
more
up and
protected.
calling me a fucking man predator, stay out, then you want to be taken
That's it,
serious.
that's
Denying trans people healthcare is a human rights violation.
See, this is a very oddly phrased question because it's not denying trans people health care or denying trans people trans health care is a human rights violation. Because for that, I would probably say no, it does not deny a human rights violation because you can't do elective things to yourself that you want to do. But when it says denying trans people healthcare, like getting a flu shot, like that's what I'm saying. Like healthcare is like not trans healthcare. Healthcare is flu shots, checkups, things like that. But like sweethearts, you're not like going to get a pap smear, for example. Do you know what I'm saying? So I'm like that. Like that's a very odd phrased question.
Yeah, and that's the question that Stassi and the other transgender people came up with. So that's the one they presented to the Dr. Daff show. That's one of them, at least, that they presented and that the Dr. Daff show decided to implement. So it's just a little nugget for you.
I mean, do you agree that it's oddly it's not phrased correctly, in my opinion?
It's meant to not be easy to answer because if you say denying trans people healthcare isn't a human rights violation, you sound like a monster because you're preventing them from getting their flu shot or going to the doctor, for a general issue.
Yeah.
But what they're really saying, and I also touched on this during the video, they're not talking about regular general healthcare. They're talking about hormones and puberty blockers and getting their breasts done and their butt done and their face chiseled. They're talking about getting all these plastic surgery operations that have nothing to do with the health of their bodies. It's all about mutilating themselves.
Oh my goodness.
I'm curious.
I don't think that anybody should be denied health care. I don't think that the health care between men and women are the same or cis women, trans women. It's between men and women. Everyone should have the opportunity to get health care. I don't feel like it should be subsidized for trans people. I don't feel like in the military, they're paying for sex change operations and gender affirming care. I don't believe that should be the case at all. But if it's the same type of healthcare that we all need, like we get the flu, we break our arm, we need glasses, I don't feel like anybody should be discriminated for basic human rights.
No,
we all
would be
deserve
ridiculous to say.
basic human rights, but I don't think that one side deserves more or special care than any of the other.
Can I ask for clarification?
Yeah, what would you like clarified?
It's just the way that he
because
talks
I was on board, but I see kind of what you're doing, like dancing around gender healthcare, and for me that is a life-saving healthcare, and that's not up to opinion, really. That's my personal experience with it. So
it's not up to, okay, love that sentence, by the way. I just got to break that down real quick. I love that sentence. It's okay. I just it's not up for opinion. It's my personal experience. And personal experience would be his opinion. So it's actually I think I'm gonna start using that because I actually kind of like that. That's gonna be so funny when I try to, go up to people and be like, so it's not about your opinion, it's about my opinion. Is basically what was said. And that kind of just will shut down the whole I bet if I start using that, like with my husband when we get into arguments, I'm just gonna start saying, well, it's actually not about your opinion, it's about my opinion.
It's about my truth.
Yeah. And just the way he started that out, and I just need to ask for clarification. It's like, that he's upset about what she just said, which is, and it's not life saving. This didn't save. Okay. Is this, should I just keep playing this, or do you have something, do you know what I'm saying? I don't even know. It aggravates me to my core.
There we go. Yeah, I mean, it's just so ridiculous. Like for me, as a woman, you have to fight tooth and nail to even get your doctor to run labs. But with these trans people, they can get it paid for by the government, get breast implants, get their face done, get all these Botox, et cetera, et cetera. What are you talking about? Like, is this the level we've gotten on? And Stassi gave it away right away. He was like, well, I see how you're dancing around it. What about gender health care? It's like,
Yep.
okay, so now we know you're
That's
not
the
serious.
question. Okay.
That's what
Yeah.
you're trying to do.
Yeah.
Believe that we should be where I think the prompt is more directed into like, should trans people have access to trans healthcare?
Like, should you be allowed to trans?
But that's not what it said. And if that's the question you wanted to ask, then you should have said that. Because then we could have actually had a real conversation versus you trying to make it wrapped into one. Like, it's not healthcare if you like electively decide, oh, I want bigger boobs. Like if you or I were to be like, oh, I want that. That's not like I decided I wanted that. That's not like what Kristen was saying. Oh, you broke your arm? Yeah, I'm not going to be like, oh, don't go to the doctor. That would be crazy. Like, that's nuts to even say.
Yeah. And the fact that they want the government to pay for it is the kicker. Like, I can understand if they were paying for it out of their own pocket. But, like, for me, like, I have TMJ. And, like, I literally, like, if I don't get it taken care of, my teeth are all going to get grinded down. I have severe jaw pain. I have to pay for that all out of pocket. Something that's actually physically affecting my health and my teeth is something that I have to pay for out of pocket. But they can go and get all these elective surgeries done, paid for by the government, and nobody says a word.
Oh my goodness.
Position, you know, things like that. And on that note, you know, you brought the military. That's why I thought it was very silly when people were like, oh, well, we shouldn't allow it because it's so expensive, it's draining our money. Well, let's put in this perspective. Trans healthcare, when it comes to government insurance, makes up about, I think, $13 million versus Viagra getting sent to soldiers makes up $44 million. And I think as long as you're talking about helping soldiers get erections overseas, the idea that a trans woman shouldn't be allowed to have HRT because of that to cut spending, like, you know, maybe if we cut down on like a million other things that are being completely overshadowed on, then I would be like, I wouldn't be open to it, but I'd understand it a bit more. But as long as we're still, like I said, as long as we're still funding Viagra and at 4 times the rate that we're funding transitional care, then I think the topic is silly.
What's the difference between women getting birth control, right? Being able to access birth control, and me as a trans woman being able to afford gender affirming care?
That is
hormone replacement
completely different. Getting
I mean, first off, I mean, what was like
Honestly,
the Viagra thing is like so
okay, and I don't know the stats on this.
And I don't either. I do not either.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's true. But I could imagine, like, some soldiers are stationed with their wives, right? So, like, I mean, okay, I don't know. But all I'm saying is they're having a bone to pick with Viagra, which is something that actually helps the sex life of a person. And it, like, assists in, like, the happiness of them with their family. But then they have a problem with, they don't have a problem with them getting these elective surgeries that are ridiculous, that don't help they're actually hurting themselves. I just don't get it. That was a hypocritical situation.
It was very
They're
odd.
saying-
It was also a very stupid argument to make because it's like, if you're telling me my choice is like keep both or take away both, like cool, I'll just take away both. Cool. You know what I'm saying? Like, if that's my options, like, all right. It's such a bad argument that it's like, that's basically what he's saying is you keep both, or if you want to, if you don't, then okay. Like, and then, I mean, what's your, it's, I don't even know what to say. When I first watched this, I was just like sitting here, like, where is this leading? And it led to nowhere, of course.
Yeah. I mean, and I could understand the point of like some things are also paid for by the government that we don't support. And so it's like all or nothing scenario. But yeah, no, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. We can still not like other things while also believing we shouldn't pay for gender transition.
Yes.
Right?
And moving on to birth control is a crazy equivalent.
birth control pill versus a surgery.
But it's not. That's not what I'm talking about. We're not talking about surgery.
What are you talking about then?
Like hormone pills, birth control. Why is it you can have yours but I can't have mine?
Because I'm actually a woman.
That means nothing. That means
I
nothing.
am, and I actually
I'm a
have
trans woman.
a period,
And here's
and
the
I
thing,
can
I'm a
give
trans woman,
birth, and I have
also
a
have
period.
I mean, what is Stasia upset about right here? I didn't notice this the first time. I just noticed him looking at somebody and saying, "This is what I'm talking about." The minute Kristen says, "It's because I'm actually a woman," which is true in every sense of the word. He looks at somebody and goes, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, well, Stassi had such an issue with the pronouns question because Stassi knew that if he couldn't have us calling him a woman, then pretty much everything else would fall apart too. So it's ridiculous. And even Blossom right there goes, after Kristen goes, because I'm actually a woman, and Blossom goes, that means nothing. That's what I'm talking about. Like, they say that they're on women's side. They say that they just want to be friends with us and they just want to get along and they don't want to mess up with our lives. But they are literally devaluing what a woman is every single day of their lives. And right here, right now, they're doing it because they're saying, well, being a woman means nothing. I'm a trans woman, as if that's somehow equal.
That's such a good point. That's such a good thing to point out. And especially because it goes back to what you were saying a little bit ago when you said in the heat of the moment, he said what he really meant, right? You said that about the consequences thing. And you can say that again about what just was said there. In the heat of the moment, he said what he meant. She said, I'm an actual woman. He said, that means nothing. And as somebody who's given birth to a literal human child, carried a child for 9 months, I can tell you everything I had ever done in my life didn't even come close to doing that. And that happened because I'm a woman. That was given to me, my God-given ability. And so for him to devalue us, and being a mom isn't the only thing that holds value in being a woman. I just use that as an example because I genuinely believe that that is the greatest gift that God gave us, is the ability to carry a child, give birth to said child, and just be a nurturer to children, and just having that God-given natural ability. And not only that, but being a great wife and being able to, especially women in like the conservative space, us having a voice in this, and not only having it be men who are coming out like against trans people, for example, but women coming out and talking, well, actually, no, you're pushing against me in my space. It's so powerful. And you're correct. The devaluing of women, which is hilarious because you're trying to be a woman. So you're devaluing us while you're trying to prove your value. So you're pushing women down to prove that you're more of a woman, which no woman I know who is worthy of being a good friend and a good woman pushes other women down to prove more that she's a better woman. That's not what we do. You find sisterhood. And that's why guys often joke, even just using this as a funny, simple example, like girls often go to the bathroom together, right? And guys will joke about that. You know, guys will be like, why do you go to the bathroom together? Why do you do this? And often I'll joke and be like, it's so we're talking about you, or, you know, we're just talking and we're gossiping. But I've even found it like, I just want to be there for you just in case if something happens and we're at a strange place. Or, you know, women end up often going in places in groups, and people make jokes about it in movies, but it's because we're a sisterhood. We have each other's backs. We know what it's like. And so the pushing us down to prove more that you're a woman is so disgusting and so apparent that you're actually a man in that. And so yes, the point you made is so spot on. That is 100% accurate.
Their needs. I don't need to have a period. I don't need to have a period to experience the things that I experience as a trans woman. Here's the thing. We get blood clots just like cis women do. We get heart attacks just like cis women do.
And that's a human health
We
care
get other things. But here's the thing,
that's
though.
not
But we're
a trans
all connected.
Thing.
That is also a trans healthcare thing. It's inclusive
It's a
of
human
trans
healthcare
people.
thing.
It is inclusive of trans people. That is what I'm trying to get you to understand.
It's not
I just like watching
inclusive.
your face in this video.
And we all have blood clots.
The head tilt.
But the
like,
thing is, though, I should be able to get access to care as a trans person, and you have no right to tell me that I do not deserve to.
It's elective.
It doesn't matter. Well, women get boob jobs too, and it's elective.
But
so
are we
it's the
paying for
same
people's
thing.
boob jobs?
I do not believe in universal health care. I do not believe birth control should be given out under health care. I think it's terrible for women and young girls. They should be educated naturally on their bodies. I think that is for the government to literally make us sick and kill us. I do not believe a dollar should go to anything trans or transitioning. I'm so sorry. Women
Finally,
get
right?
cancer,
I mean,
lose their breasts, all these things. Children have cancer. I would give that money
the whole
to anything in the
video
world.
to
that is a
freaking
choice.
finally
I
come out
cannot
and
put
say
a
good
dollar
stuff.
towards that.
Goodness
So
gracious.
can I what's it called? Just like kind of talk on that. So when it comes to the whole, talking about cancer and everything like that, I will definitely agree. Like, those are extremely major issues. But so is like transitional care. Like as earlier when we talked about the trans sports thing, we talked about averages. And you can say that, oh, there's still a high suicide rate, whatever, but the average trans person is going to be happier post transition. And I will say, maybe
Only for a short time.
hold on. Sorry, love. I'm sorry that came off rude, but I will say there's definitely some people who, maybe transition isn't the best way, so then it goes wrong. And then, being trans, there is a lot of things with it. Gender dysphoria is such a bitch. But also at the same time, some people, like me, for example, I lived my whole life, and just like she said, ever since I was like born, like ever since I was like 3, I got in trouble at school because I would tell kids that I was a girl and that my, what's fake, and that my parents wanted a boy. And so it is a life-changing thing, and it is a medical issue. And,
It's just
living my life through
interesting what he
dysphoria,
says
I could
there.
talk.
Because it's like he actually admits that it's his parents' fault that he is the way that he is right in that sentence, and it makes me sad because I was like the whole time, and then he says, oh, and my parents wished that they had a boy or a girl, and it's
I can sit and talk to somebody, and there's been so
hear.
many different ways. It's not like transition was the first thing that everyone jumped on. It was like, yeah, this is the way you treat it. There was therapies, there was, even sometimes loading trans women full of testosterone to see if that would fix the issue. And a lot of the times, these don't fix the issue. And while things could fix it for one party, maybe it won't. And I'm not, going to say anything personal, but let's just say, we rewind time 10 years, me and Blossom are the same age, and, she has really bad dysphoria, and, we both have what we think is dysphoria. Well, let's say transition works perfectly for Blossom, and, it does improve her life. She's suicidal before, and now she's happy, she's vibrant, and she's living her life, and she's actually able to do it. But then let's look at me, and then let's say, oh, well, let's say maybe transition was wrong for her or him, whatever. And then, I wouldn't say use me as the example of why I shouldn't be allowed for her. So
there you go.
Wait, but I get the two different scenarios.
not a good
I'm
point.
literally just saying
So
I
bad.
do not believe in
was
us
a
paying
lot of
for it
blabber.
because we don't agree
Yeah,
for
and
it.
it
So I would
wasn't
just say
good.
not a dollar to that.
But
And
I
I was saying
also-
not a dollar to all the other
But
things
I also
as well.
agree that we need more to allocate certain spending, not on transitional care, but we definitely do need to reallocate government spending on more important things. Like you said, there's like I think it's kind of
a kid with cancer.
yeah, and I think it's ridiculous that we
I
don't
don't agree
allow.
with you, but I can appreciate you being an equal opportunist.
Yeah.
I don't like. I think in a world where we don't pay for skin grafts for severe burn victims,
He
like
doesn't
we
agree
definitely
that
need to open that up
kids
when we
with
shouldn't
cancer should be helped over
bring-
Viagra. That's what she said, and then he was like, I don't agree with you. That's a crazy thing to say.
Did he say that? That's insane.
Yes.
Viagra point again. We shouldn't be paying for soldiers to be able to get erections when we have people in the U.S. who are dying. We have people in the U.S. who, like I said, they suffer these horrible disfigurements and they can't even get the plastic surgery to fix that. I do think that needs to be fixed and that does need to be changed, but I also don't think that needs to take away from trans medical issues or things like that to do so.
I mean, yeah, that's why I kind of put that I didn't think it was necessary because overall healthcare for men and women both, I think, yeah, okay, you should be able to go and get that kind of healthcare. But when it's subsidized by the government, gender transitioning, I think that's where I draw the line because I agree kind of on that point. I don't think a lot of things should be subsidized by the government.
Can I ask one question?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Sure.
If you want to continue, you can continue. Sorry, I'll ask after.
Yeah, so that's pretty much my point is I just think because it's a choice, it's something that you choose for yourself. I know we could debate back and forth on that, but it's something you want to go and get breasts, you want to get a sex change, you want those hormone blockers so you can feel more like a woman. I don't think that my taxpayer dollars should have to fund that, and I don't think my taxpayer dollars should have to fund a lot of things. So
what about like antidepressants for someone who is depressed or something like that?
No,
I mean, let's say
So
like
we just have
anything.
opposite views,
Yeah.
I think, on terms of that, and I kind of respect it.
Wait, can I ask
I
something though?
understand
Would
it,
you guys
actually.
agree with subsidization or subsidizing whatever if I wanted boobs to make me feel more feminine because
feel
I have no boobs?
That could be access to gender affirming care for you.
If it cures or calms down your suicidal thoughts, or if it improves your mental health, I am
Quality of
for
life.
it. And your quality of life, I'm definitely for it. I actually understand your standpoint
Me
on
too.
not wanting to subsidize this. I completely understand it. I don't agree with it,
Mhm.
but I do understand, but here's the reality. Our tax dollars are funding things that we don't like. And there is nothing that we can do about it.
It's literally what you
that's
just said.
something that
It's
we
literally
can't
what you just said.
control. We don't have no
And at
control
least
around that.
I'm going to
So
say
I just wanna
this
make
just
that
from my personal
clear.
standpoint. The reason why I'd be more hesitant on that is because unlike body dysmorphia, which, you know, it can be talked through, it can be, you know, cured basically, you can't really do that with gender dysphoria. You can alleviate it, and there is some people who, like I said, you know, maybe they don't need to transition to alleviate it. Maybe they can live their life.
He like genuinely actually deals with this, because I do feel like he gives off the vibe like he feels like he's stuck. He literally says there's no cure to what I'm feeling. And you notice that I think he's the only one that says gender dysphoria in the whole video on their side versus being trans.
Totally. He's the only one that admits that it means there's something wrong with you. The rest of them don't want to say that having gender dysphoria, believing you're transgender means there's something wrong with you. They don't want it to be thought of as that, because they want it to be a positive thing. Oh, it's great, you know, it should be celebrated. But it's really a sad thing that we should mourn, that people are so unhappy in their own bodies that they feel the need to change it. And I even said that to the guy dressed in like white with the dress, that, you know, with children, it's sad that we are telling children that they're not perfect in their own bodies. They're literal kids, and we are telling them, you are not good enough in your own body. You're only going to be happy if you change yourself. Like, what kind of message is that sending to children? And then he got really angry when I said that.
Yes, as they often do. Yes, and I feel like it would be very interesting to have a follow-up conversation
Cisgender,
with him.
perfectly fine, you know, but they have these dysphoric thoughts. But then there are people where it is more severe. I think if body dysmorphia, you couldn't cure it at all and it was just awful, then yeah, totally. Yeah. But you can have a therapy talk down, whereas gender dysphoria, you can't really talk down that. It's just there. You're born with it. It's kind of just an innate fact of you, which is unfortunate.
It makes me sad. No, I just appreciate. I really hope that somebody follows up with him and honestly just tries to share the love of Jesus with him, because we do blow this sin way out of proportion, and that's why it feels like a societal norm. But at the end of the day, like I'm not going around going to the I'm having an affair on my husband parade, right? There's no I'm having an affair month. And that's a sin, but that's like a no-no sin. But this is a sin that society has accepted. And so it would make me want to have a conversation with him, just to be like sharing the love of God, sharing how he can pull us out of things, sharing how we might have felt like we were stuck in different pits. Here's how I got out of mine, and this is how you can actually get out of yours too, even though this feels like something that's really blown up.
Right. Just to tell him that, like, it's okay that it's hard, and for a lot of people, they are dealing with extremely hard things that they have to turn away from, and that you don't have to give in to these things. I mean, I really, really do feel for him. Like, this specific thing that he struggles with is a huge part of who you are. Other sins we can hide behind closed doors. This one, you know, if you're actually in it sinning, it's harder to hide. So I mean, I feel for him, but you're so right. I hope that someone close to him can sit down and have a conversation about, you know, what it really means to be following Christ, because he has a cross around his neck. I mean, he does know the Lord. I don't know how in depth he's thought about, you know, what it means to be a Christian, but
like consistency. You know what I mean? Because if you said no, I think that would be super unfair.
No.
You know what I mean?
No, I actually like that you brought that in a little bit, because I do feel like even cisgender people do get gender affirming care. I know somebody that was a man that he grew breasts naturally. He was testosterone normal human and had to get it removed.
Who paid for that?
Huh?
Who paid for that?
I honestly, I'm going to be real. I'm not 100% sure. I don't know. But I was more so just bringing up like the fact like that I do believe that cisgender people can also receive gender health care. You kind of see what I'm saying?
I'm willing to learn from women with different gender identities.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be here if I wasn't willing to hear from different people. Now, whether or not I'm going to take what you're saying as Bible, no, probably not, but I can come here and I can try to approach it from an empathetic and compassionate point of view. I think for me, one of my hesitancies with coming on an episode like this is I never want my politics to overshadow the love I have for other people. And I just want to let you guys know that there's so much love for you, and I can try to put myself in your shoes to where if I was in a body that I didn't feel comfortable in, how hard that would be. And so there's so much compassion from my side. Now, I also want to speak in truth. And so when I speak to you, I want to try to tell you what I believe to be the truth, because if I believe all these things, but I'm not telling you, how kind of me is that really from my perspective? And so, yes, I'm happy to come here and I'm happy to hear from you so that I can develop a further understanding. But at the end of the day, am I going to take your opinions as just as valuable as a biological woman? No, probably not.
So that's the reason why I put no up. I am
Totally
happy
valid.
to be
Everything
here
you said
and
is
listen to you guys.
spot on. Everything you said was spot on.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was trying, I look back at this video and I'm like, oh, I wish I had gone in a little bit harder on them. I wish I had not conceded on some points, because I think, just to give you some background, coming from the Jubilee video I did, I saw how aggressive I was up front and how like ready I was, and I felt like, okay, that's too much. Let me like calm down. And so on this side of the spectrum, I was really trying to like come at it from a more compassionate point of view, really be calm, like not say anything that was going to really hurt their feelings. And so I'm glad, at the end of the day, I'm happy with how I spoke to them, but I also see where it's like, okay, but you gotta be truthful. And I think it's such a hard thing to balance.
It is. It is.
People and learn about your lived experiences and what you guys go through and listen to your opinions. But do I take that to change my core beliefs? No, because as you guys know, in my opinion, I don't feel like you guys are actual women. I know that you guys are biological men. And so that's the reason why I gave the answer I did, because I'm not learning from another woman, but I'm learning from another human being. Yeah. And that's okay.
I just feel like you didn't come here in good faith. You specifically. I feel I receive things from you. I've taken things from you. I've taken things from you. You're the only one that I'm having a rough time, because you're talking in absolutes. Even you. I was fully expecting you and
I thought you were the worst.
No, seriously. And
yeah,
I really,
Emily, that's not a compliment. I hope you know.
heard that first part. I really do. And
it's not.
Honestly,
it's an actual.
real. Like,
you should feel like ashamed about that comment.
I do see that you're a kind
I
person.
truly believe that. I truly believe that she should actually be severely embarrassed that they were like, oh, we were really worried about you, but then we had nothing to worry about. You never want to hear that from people who are doing extremely demonic things. You don't want to hear that.
And I want to talk to you about that, because that was something that I also saw, and kind of in the aftermath I was noticing. So we can have a conversation about that after this.
Okay.
And I received that from you as well. You were very kind when we went into the dressing rooms, and respected.
And you don't think I'm kind now? But it's how I feel, and it's the truth. I don't want to lie to you.
Yeah,
I want to.
I was just saying.
I want to be
exactly
truthful to you.
See, but it's
I feel
exactly
like
what you
being
said,
truthful
but
to
she
you
just
guys
said it in
is
a
very
different way.
respectful. Like she said, if I lie to you, it doesn't do any good. You guys have said things that I don't agree with, that I feel are not true, but that's your opinion. Yeah. And this is my opinion, and I'm being truthful with you. I'm not trying to be rude to you. I'm not trying to disrespect you, but you're learning about the other side. Mm-hmm. And so by learning about the other side, you're going to have to hear stuff like this that you don't agree with.
Yeah, so I'm going to give some hard truths, because you also have to hear about the other side that you don't agree with. Now,
that's what I'm here for, to hear from the other side.
I'm personally grateful to be here, because having this conversation with women, cis women, the biologicals, anything you want to name it or whatnot, it's a very challenging conversation, because there's so much hatred online that puts us against each other. And so at least us being in alignment to have this conversation, whether we agree with each other, it's actually moving the needle forward. I have love for y'all. I don't agree with 99.99% of the things that y'all said, with the exception of you. You're a little bit more. And I was really surprised by you, because I thought you would be the worst. Okay. But
not a compliment.
The reality is, I have an experience, and this is my reality. We come here.
Oh. And then it just cuts off. The editing team dropped the ball on that one. I don't really
Oh,
know what happened.
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, yeah. So what were you seeing after? Or were they all buddy buddy chum chums?
So I'm so irritated with this brightness situation. Okay, but
No, you look great. You look great.
yeah, so I was really, really surprised by how Emily didn't. I mean, there were moments where Emily said things I agreed with, and I'm glad that she said them. However, yeah, with how buddy buddy she was with all of them, I was like, wow, she's really making besties. And there was even a part where Emily said, I want to have you all on my podcast. I think you're all great. I told you before we started filming, everyone was very nice to each other. After filming, everyone was very nice to each other as well. So I was thinking, okay, I guess Emily is just, she's not very conservative. She wants to pander to this. She was pandering to them.
Oh,
a
for
lot.
sure. Oh, for sure.
And so I was just like, okay, this is the person who I'm dealing with. And she was very nice to me. And maybe I'm divulging too much, but it just upset me because after it was already over, Emily, she completely changed. I mean, she started going the opposite direction, talking about how they are freaks and saying every name in the book about them and how they're going to all commit suicide anyways. And yeah, so I'm hearing that and I'm like, oh, okay, so the person you see on screen is not the person that is her in real life.
I mean, so she's
And
a
I think
coward, basically, is what I'm hearing. It is. It's very cowardice.
She 100% is trying to play both sides. If she can, make besties with these trans people, but also defend some conservative beliefs, then she can have her cake and eat it too. You know what I mean? So
Oh my
it just blew my
goodness.
mind. And I think this is also an important thing for us to know, just because I have grown up watching Jubilee videos. I've grown up watching debates. I've grown up watching, famous people talk about politics. A lot of people, what they say on screen is not really what they believe in real life. And a lot of what they do is motivated by money. They are paid to say what they say. I was having a conversation with a girl about this the other day, but a lot of our favorite influencers, they are paid literally per video by agencies to say word for word what they are saying. They are paid to repost. They are paid to do all these things. And so people like Emily, I agree with some of the things she says, but I also know that she will say things a certain way to one audience and she will say things a certain way to another audience. And I don't think she's a great representation of a conservative woman. But just on a human level, I don't appreciate that on screen, it was easier for her to make besties with these people and, smile and get their phone numbers. But then after it was over, to me and Kristen, she was the exact opposite. She's, saying all these.
And she's saying this to them.
Once filming's over, we're walking out to the parking lot and it's just me and Kristen talking to her. We're recapping everything that occurred. That's when Emily completely changed. And she just basically, she said what she really thought.
And as a fellow woman on that panel, I'm sure you're thinking like, all right, baby better words. However, where was this fire when they were coming after me, when they were coming after Kristen, when they were coming after what you claimed to have belief in? Like, where was the fire about standing up for truth? Because literally in the first part of this video that I reacted to already, she literally says, and I want you guys to all know that you are beautiful. And if I ever saw you guys on the street, I would never think that you are a man. Like, you would 100% be a woman. She says that. Like, that's almost a direct quote. And to come to you guys and basically pander to you in that moment. And then on the camera, though, make it, like you said, to have her cake and eat it too. It's a very, very poor representation of just who we are and who we should be.
Yeah. And I don't know if you've seen recent news developments with Emily, but she's proven time and time again that she really isn't for women in a lot of areas, and she has gone on the attack against other women who genuinely hold conservative values. And so she was nice to me. I mean, if I wanted to make it easy for myself, I could say, yeah, she was great, she was perfect, but that's not the truth. And I was really disappointed by what I saw from her.
Well, I appreciate you sharing the truth, and I appreciate you in that video sticking up for truth, standing up for truth, and I really appreciate you kind of clarifying that one moment that I had in the last one that I wouldn't call an issue, but where I was, talking about conceding when you use their pronouns and all that, and clarifying that because it does help and it does make sense what you were saying, and I think that's totally valid. And I appreciate you for coming on and watching this with me and talking about this with me. I hope to have you on again. I think you'd be a phenomenal guest to have on. And so, why don't you tell people, where they can follow you, what you're doing, and if you have anything else to say, now's the time.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me on. This has been so fun. You're great. I'm so glad
you.
that I'm speaking to a godly woman, a mother. Your daughter is going to grow up and she's going to be so blessed by you. Your
Thank
family
you.
is
Thank
so
you.
blessed to have you. So I'm so grateful to have met you. If anybody wants to find me on social media, my Instagram is Angelina Talks, Angelina Talks. And then I just started a TikTok that's called Angelina Talks Too. Just has an underscore between my name and the other word. So yeah, that's where you can find me. Yeah.
Well, awesome.
And then just to close out, yeah, I did go hard on Emily right there. She does have a lot on the line in her life. I know she works on Fox News, and when you do grow, I'm sure when you do grow a big audience, there's a lot more at stake, and when you have everything to lose, you're going to try to censor yourself more. So I understand that, but I just think it's disingenuous to people like myself or people like Kristen who are going on there and we are really trying to we're saying things that are unpopular and that are going to affect us in negative ways because we believe so strongly in what we're saying. And then we see other people who are just taking the easy road in a lot of areas, and it can be frustrating, but overall I'm grateful that I had them on the panel with me. It was a good experience. I don't hate anyone. But yeah.
Well, it's also proof that don't ever do something in your life that puts you in a position where your morals and who you are as a person and what you can and can't say are in somebody else's hands.
Yeah.
And I think that also comes down to the point I was making earlier. Are you a conservative or are you a Christian conservative? Because God calls us to lay our lives down and to not hold on to the things of this world. And if a job asked me to be careful what I say and maybe not say this and maybe not say that, but it was against my morals and that's what standing up for God's truth is, then I just simply would probably be like, well, I just can't do that because no job, no amount of money or anything like that, like no fame or riches or anything like that is worth conceding or going against what God tells me to do, which is to stand up for truth. And that's why my favorite Bible verse, John 15:18, where Jesus is talking to his disciples and he says, if the world hates you, they hated me first.
Yeah.
And it is, some people may take that and go, that's, really discouraging. I don't want to be hated. Nobody does. And I actually find that to be, for me, the most encouraging Bible verse because he's telling us, hey, you're on the right path. And that's why when I told you, when they looked at Kristen and went, oh, well, I just never really liked you at all. That is the biggest compliment that she could have received. And when they looked at Emily and said, oh, and I thought you were going to be the worst, but you were the best. That is the worst compliment that she could have received. Because clearly you didn't go in there standing up for truth, no holding back. And even with you when they're like, we can learn things from you. Because that's the question, and the delicacy of how that's phrased is good. I want them to be able to learn things from what you're saying and hear you out. Just like you should be hearing them out. And I understand that. But when they're looking at Emily and going, oh, and I thought you were going to be bad, but you were great. That's not what God calls us to do. That's not how he asks us to act. He literally tells us, if you're standing up for the truth, people are going to hate you. Yeah. And so it's almost like, and it's a very backward way of saying that when they looked at you and went after you and were like reaping the consequences, that's a compliment, girl, because you were standing up for truth and doing what God calls us to do so well that they hated you. And that's why that's my favorite Bible verse, because now I know anytime I am in God's word, I'm standing up for what he tells me to do. I'm standing up for what's real and what's right. And people are hating me for it. I know that I am where I am exactly supposed to be. And so I just want to encourage you in that and to keep doing that because that's awesome for you and amazing.
Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate this conversation. I feel like I learned so much from this conversation too. I was kind of like, oh yeah, you know what? I do agree with you, and I do want to be better in that area. So thank you so much, sister in Christ, a sister in Christ. Thank you for calling me higher in some areas because I need it. So
Yes.
yeah, thank you again for having me on.
Yeah, of course. And this was Let's Talk episode 29. Let's talk about conservative versus trans women, part 2.